Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you coming back for this postponed event because it's super important. Like I said, branding is something that everyone needs to talk about. And luckily, we have Dr. Contrecia Sharpe in the house as our in-house branding communications expert. She is an EC advisor. So she is someone that you can meet with to talk about these needs one-on-one, but we're so grateful to have her here today to just share her expertise with the group and this one time at Brand Camp. The title itself, great branding. Thank you everyone for joining us. And Tracy, I'm going to hand things over to you.
All right, perfect. First, I wanted to say thank you all so much for being willing and open to the rescheduling of this event. We are excited, definitely excited to have it take place today. It is an interactive event. So we'll kind of talk about some brand storytelling pieces. What does it mean? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your customer? But there also are some questions in here that I want you all to, if you have a piece of paper, if you have a notebook that you write in, if you're on your computer taking some notes, because we'll walk you through some of the questions that are necessary to develop a brand story. So we're going to share my screen. So welcome to and this one time at Brand Camp. A lot of people always ask, why do you call it that? What does it mean? And when I was growing up, there was a cult classic movie called American Pie. And the storyteller in that movie, her name was Michelle. And she always started her stories with, and this one time at band camp. So sticking alongside that same storytelling principle and same storytelling concept, we wanted to name it and this one time at brand camp. Also, if you have any questions throughout, just leave them in the chat. We'll definitely do some questions at the end, but I want you to leave this webinar and this workshop feeling as renewed and as confident and as comfortable in moving forward with writing your brand story. So there is a quote that says, if you want to know me, then you must know my story, for my story defines who I am. And that is what we are going to work on today. You want to think about a story that you love, a documentary, a podcast episode, a novel, and what makes that story stick with you? It's because it made you feel something, whether it increased your knowledge in a certain area, whether it was nostalgic and made you understand or go back or revert back to a certain time, or whether it pushed you or pulled you to do something. That story is kind of the base and the foundation of brand storytelling. A brand story contains many of the same elements that draw you into your favorite book or film, and it's a story with a similar purpose. It has characters, it has a conflict, it has a rising action, and it has a climax. But most importantly, it leaves you with a feeling. So, who is Contrecia T? I wanted to give you just a quick kind of insight to who I am. Why do I talk about this topic? What do I do? I am an award-winning marketing, branding, and PR professional since 2008. My hashtags are the IMC Doctor, Dr. T, and Contrecia Tanya. I am a professor at Lipscomb, and I will be moving to TSU in the fall. I'm the owner of neuIMC, which is one of the top 20 marketing agencies in Nashville. We focus on dreams to plans and plans to action. We work with you from ideation to creation, and we help small and medium-sized brands and businesses develop strategies that convert and deliver. So we have the Leverage series, which I am launching a course this Monday. I have your all's email. You'll get an email about that. But I also have Leverage the book, which is coming summer 2021, and it's called From Overthinker to Doer. And it's my journey of how I went from the journey of perfection to the journey of done. We also have SheEO, which is it cultivates leadership and greatness in women. And we have the Win crowd, which is our play on the in crowd. I'm the preacher of one size doesn't fit all, meaning that the strategy that you have for your business is a strategy that is tailored to your customer, to your purpose, to your why, and to your overall outcome. I'm the writer of Entrepreneurship, Life's Wildest Roller Coaster, a recovered overthinker, a master doer, a brand and business cheerleader, and the play caller. I'm a curator and cultivator of success and results, and I help build brand, businesses, and strategies. So if you think of brand storytelling in terms of just storytelling, you free yourself from the constraints of what you think a brand story should be. And you allow yourself to write a story that you really want. There are no rules here, but there are plenty of guidelines that experienced storytellers use to catch and keep attention. When you think, a lot of times when you look at marketing or you look at efforts or strategies or things like that, you'll start to see a lot of buzzwords, keywords, words that are trending, things like that, that people really feel that they're just placeholders, right? So people go in, use these buzzwords because they sound good, they feel good. You see industry experts and industry leaders, thought leaders starting to use those words. And so you automatically feel pushed or pressured into using those. But a brand's story is often closely tied to the founder's original vision for their business or one they uncover along the way. And we want to make sure that we focus there. So before we jump into kind of brand storytelling, we will talk about what is a brand, just to get you a clearer picture of what does it mean to have a brand, what makes up a brand. There are so many different things. A lot of people feel like going into business and creating a logo, you automatically have a brand, but that is a part of your branding. That is not the foundation of your brand. Your brand is so much more than just a logo or guiding standards, right? So what colors you scheme, what colors you want, what fonts you choose, it's so much more than that. It's the set of expectations and memories and stories and relationships that put together impact a customer's decision to choose one product or service over another. And that came from Seth Godin. And he's this marketing mastermind, right? So it's so much more than just your logo. It's so much more than just your color scheme. It's so much more than where you are putting or what typography you use or anything like that. It's the culmination of expectations, memories, feelings, stories, relationships that are all put together and then in turn impact how a consumer interacts with your brand, how they feel about your brand. It elicits a feeling. It pushes someone to feel a certain way, whether it's about your product and service or about your actual brand, but it evokes a feeling of some sort. So a case study, when we're talking about brand story and branding, this is Nike versus New Balance. So when you think about athletic wear and athleisure, all of those things, one of the, you have Nike, you have New Balance, you have Adidas, you have Under Armour, you have Puma. And at the center, of course, the functionality of their products and services are all the same, right? Sneakers, comfortable clothing for activities, regardless of what the activity is. And while the functionality of each product is very similar, the promises and messaging from each brand is completely different. And because of that, that leads the consumer to have different expectations and experiences with each brand. And then they have, from there, they feel different about what each brand offers them emotionally, right? So when you think of New Balance, when I think of New Balance, and I look at the messaging, I look at the advertising, I look at their content, I even look at the design of their shoes, the design of their product, you think something more comfortable, something more leisurely, something to just wear around town. When you look at Nike, you think high performance, you think athlete, you think sports, tennis, football, basketball, track. So while the function of the shoe, while the function of their primary products are very, very similar, the promises, the experiences, the expectations based on their story, which then impacted their content, which then impacted their messaging. It's all so vastly different that my expectations of each one reflects that.
I'm in the Zoom. I got it in my ear. Oh, you having a meeting?
So what is
I'm
brand
good. I got it
storytelling?
in my ear. Phone's gonna die anyway.
Gable, I think you're unmuted.
Let me mute. I'm sorry.
Are you fine? So what is brand storytelling? Brand storytelling then is a use of narrative that shapes and communicates the essence of your brand to your customers. Okay? It's a mix of the facts, which is the who, the what, and the when, and feelings, which is your why, that acts as a guide for your brand's messaging, content, and experience. So a good story infuses a brand's values, meaning what do you stand for? What is your purpose? What is your conviction? Your brand story can also become your North Star for a growing company. It's that beacon that guides the company. It can act as the foundation that sets the brand guidelines, that keeps your mission, your message, and your voice consistent regardless of where the touch point is, and even as you grow as a company. And that's where a lot of brands seem to lose their brand story, because it is so easy to, especially in a world where we are having to pivot, COVID being one of the best business teachers, I think, and that's what I tell everyone. I think that COVID has been one of the most, one of the better learning experiences as an entrepreneur, primarily because it taught you about resiliency. It taught you about the importance of a contingency plan. It taught you the importance about a continuity plan. It taught you the importance of flexibility and authenticity and being flexible. There were so many different lessons that we could learn in a pandemic, that all of those lessons work to create a better business and a better business foundation. And one of those is about remaining consistent, even as you scale or grow, or even as you pivot and change directions. It's about having, whether someone interacts with you face to face at a trade show or via your website, or whether they interact with you on Facebook or Instagram, having whatever touch point, whatever interaction, whatever experience be as consistent as possible, so that the foundation, so that it lays a foundation that then can build experiences and things like that on. The consistency is the part that a lot of people, when it comes to brand storytelling, leave out, primarily because a lot of people feel focusing on one aspect of a story or focusing on one story leaves a lot on the table and leaves a lot to be desired. And that's not true. What I tell people all the time, and we talked about Tide last time, I talk about Tide in a majority of the marketing classes that I teach, because they have a brand story, they have consistent brand strategy, brand messaging, brand content. But that does not mean that everyone doesn't love Tide or doesn't use Tide. When you look at Tide's messaging, when you look at their story, when you look at their campaigns, they focus primarily, the bulk of their messaging is focused towards mothers of children who get stains from somewhere, whether it's eating ketchup and mustard at a barbecue, whether it's playing baseball, whether it's playing football, whether it's playing softball. All of those, that's the bulk of their messaging, right? But that's not to say that the bachelor who lives in a penthouse on 2nd Avenue won't use Tide. It's just that they have recognized who the main character in their brand story is, and they focus primarily on them. Because at the end of the day, that is the consumer who, if you look at their trends, if you look at who buys their products, that's who spends the money. And that's what you have to focus on. And that's what you have to realize in brand storytelling, is that you have to find out who is your primary audience, who is it that you are primarily talking to, not meaning that you can't talk to any other audience, but who is it that you really want to pick up this message Who is it that you really want to take this message and then convert it into a lead or a sale or a continued relationship? Brand storytelling helps you with acquisition, and it also helps you with retention, because it allows consumers and customers and potential consumers to see themselves in your brand. It allows them to truly understand what it is that you have to offer and how they can benefit it, or what pain point of theirs you are fixing. So, as with any good story, a good brand story should be captivating, compelling, human, and honest. It should make people feel something. It should push them to act. It should compel them to do whatever call to action that you are putting out with your message. Then that feeling becomes the catalyst for the desired action that you're wanting. That call to action, whether it's join, donate, follow, sign up, buy, support, whatever your call to action is, your brand storytelling should pull people in to do what you are hoping that it does. I tell people all the time when we're talking about brand storytelling, and of course relating it back to films and books and things like that. One of my favorite Christmas stories is, one of my favorite Christmas movies is A Christmas Story. And not because it has, it's about so much more. Of course, you see the Red Ryder BB gun and all of that fun stuff, but because mentally, neurologically, I associate that with Christmas. So when I see it on TNT, when I see the marathons happening, it is officially Christmas and I'm officially excited. Like my family, my friends, they know that if I haven't watched A Christmas Story, then I'm not officially in the Christmas spirit. And that's how a lot of people are when it comes to stories. Like if you think about how you feel about Lion King, or why you like Lion King over Aladdin, or Aladdin over Little Mermaid, or Little Mermaid over X-Men, whatever it is, it's because watching that movie created a feeling within you that every time you experience it, that feeling is renewed. And that's what you want your brand story to do. Let me pull up the chat really quick too. All right. That is me in Home Alone. That's exactly, so you get it. So it's just one of those things, for some people it's The Grinch, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's so many different things, if that's what gets you into that spirit, it's because you have mentally associated that and emotionally associated that with that feeling. And so that's what you're looking to do. Storytelling is a way to connect emotionally to consumers. It offers consumers more than just a product or service. It offers them an experience. If you can move your audience to feel something, it's easier to build trust and an initial connection, which lays the foundation for turning them into a customer. So this is one of your biggest parts of lead generation, right? So converting them from a potential lead, a cold lead, to a warm lead, to a customer, and then retaining them there. Allowing them to feel and connecting to them emotionally through what it is, your why, your who, your what, and all of those things together. There is a study that was done that shows, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but it shows the connection between storytelling and oxytocin, and how that feeling that it evokes is the same feeling, whether it's brand storytelling or natural storytelling, film, movie, short film, whatever it is, oxytocin is released. And because of oxytocin, that's when that emotional connection is made. And from there, then you're able to convert more. You also want to know that the heart of your brand is always going to be the content. It's in what you stand for. You also want to use your brand storytelling to build authenticity and trust. You want, through your trust, you can't sell authenticity. You really can't teach authenticity. It's just something that is organic. Relationships between humans take time to build. And so that's the same relationship that you look to create between yourself, the brand, and your consumer. It requires that you spend time together, you share experiences, you have conversations, and you build trust over time. One of the most frequent pitfalls in building a brand is that in embedding a brand benefits, rather than mining and uncovering your genuine purpose and values, insincerity is really, really hard to hide. And bold messages and firm stances can read as unauthentic, no matter how many buzzwords you use. So a lot of people, like I said, they really want to fill their brand storytellings or their content or their captions with a lot of fluff and a lot of industry jargon to make them appear as thought leaders and masterminds in their industry without really taking the time to, what is it that your customer is looking to hear? What is it that you're offering? What is it that they need from you, and what solution do you provide? If it is a solution, is it the fulfillment of just an emotional connection, or is it the solving of a pain point? Whatever it is, you really want to work to understand authentically who is your consumer and what is it that you do, and then build that authentic trust and honesty so that then you have a relationship that is unwavering. Because there can be some things and some instances where insincerity and industry jargon can take over. It can ruin any good brand story. So you and your brand, as the founder, as the owner, as the CEO, you are not the star of your brand story. You're just the narrator, right? You're a supporting character and the story device that lets the main character shine. Now, your customer is the main character. They are the lead, and you have to allow them to kind of take the lead through your story. But your role is very, very critical. Your story becomes your structure with how your customers write their own with your brand. So based off of what it is that you feel are your greatest qualities, are your greatest values, are your greatest traits, your customer can then turn to write their own, and you typically see them write their own in their captions. You know, a lot of times brands, when you look at a brand's content feed, you'll see that a majority of their pictures or images are from other customers, primarily because the stories that the customers write can sometimes convey the messaging and the importance of your product or service and the value that you have better than you did, because you were looking so much from the surface in a way to appear compelling and appealing, that they have actually experienced you in a way that you hadn't thought. And so make sure that you are paying attention to your hashtags, that you're looking at your customers' content, that you're really, really feeling and understanding what they are feeling, so then that you can offer a brand story, brand messaging, brand content, a voice and a tone that captures all of that. If you see them, if they see themselves in your struggle and your triumphs, you've cast them a role in the center of your brand story. The next is answering your why. So a great story always has a why. It is the driving force behind the journey to what or where. In a brand story, the why can be the pain point, which is the gap in the market that you aim to fill, or it can just be a fulfillment of passion. The answer to why did I create this could become the jumping point or the jumping off point of your story. So now the elements of a good story. You have the exposition, which is the characters, the setting, the details that help them visualize the story. You have your conflict, which is the crisis or the tension point that may change the course of your customer's path. Your rising action, which is the lead up to the climax. Then you have your climax and your fallen action, which is the defeat, the aha moment, the inception of something new, or the resolution. The principles of which a captivating story is told are roughly the same across all mediums and genres. It's the quality of what is expressed, not the format, that determines whether your story resonates. So if the format, you want to make sure though, because a lot of times, while the format is not your primary focus or the primary concern, the format in which you deliver your brand story affects your impact and affects your reach. So developing a good story, a good brand story, of course, is critical. It's top of mind, but you also want to make sure that whatever medium or format that you are pushing it out in makes for the ultimate impact and reach so that your consumers can really understand who and what you are. So from the same storytelling methods that film directors and novelists use, you can also employ those to write a story about, or to write your brand story. So the exposition, we're going to take my brand for a minute and we'll do that. My brand is being Contrecia T, which is my personal brand that I offer branding and coaching services through. So my exposition, my characters are, of course, myself and my consumers, which are small and medium-sized brands. The setting is all across the United States. The conflict is that these small and medium-sized brands and businesses understand the importance of marketing, public relations, branding, and business development, but they don't have the budget to afford or hire or retain an agency. So how is it then that they can work with someone to end up in a DIY almost situation, getting coached, getting strategies, getting assistance along the way? So the rising action, like I said, is just that they can't afford or retain an agency to hire. The climax, then is they become fed up or they seek outside counsel that is they are willing to coach them along the way as they do it themselves. And then your resolution is coaching and consulting services, right? So it also kind of becomes your elevator pitch, but that's not what we just said. Is kind of the outline. It's the basis for the story. That's not the actual story. You'll also see a lot of times when you're looking and researching that you'll see people ask you about the hero journey, and that's just where your consumer becomes your hero. This is another way, an easier way to outline your story. It's and every day, ... until one day, and because of that, and because of that, and because of that, until finally, and since that day, the moral of the story is. And so those questions are easier when we're doing branding workshops. I find that these questions are easier for brands to answer because exposition, conflict, rising action, climax, and resolution are, again, they're words that we use in the industry. But if you aren't a natural storyteller, or if you don't work in that arena, then those can be overwhelming. So these kind of questions allow you to still understand kind of in everyday, what are they experiencing, right? Until one day, when did they get fed up? And then because they were fed up, A happened. And because A happened, B happened. And because B happened, C happened. Until finally, they knew that they need to find resolution A. And since that day, what have you done? And then the moral of the story is, what are you offering, right? So what are the benefits of working with you? What is the call to action? What are you hoping that they learn? Going back up the chat. Okay, Gable, I will answer that one at the end. Company brand versus product brand, and how do you distinguish? I'll answer that one at the very, very end. So the customer is the focus of your story. You want to hold your customer at the front of thought and let their needs and pain points guide you. If you can't communicate who you are as a brand and the type of person who would identify with your core values, then you won't be able to sell to them. Create the dialogue with your audience so that you can gather stories and build upon them for your own. The customer voices help shape your brand foundation. So if you keep your customer in focus, if you really work to understand who they are, where do they hang out, both online and physically? What is it that they are looking for you or from a service provider or from a product provider? Do they typically stay with one product or one company for a product, for their full list of product offering, or do they bounce around? Keep them at the focus, or keep them in focus and at the front of thought so that you can understand everything it is about them and compel or create a story that compels them to keep experiencing and interacting with your brand. The next thing is visual storytelling. So great storytelling is determined by form, not format. The right medium is the one that best supports your narrative. Could you tell your story through video, through audio, through photo, or through design? Where do you want to tell your story? On your About Us page on your website, social media bios and posts, your homepage of your website, a product page, product packaging, shipping materials and package inserts, email communications, brand guides, interviews, press materials, blogs, publications, podcasts, and other audio formats, as well as videos. The most obvious place to tell your brand story is on your About Us page because it's a dedicated space on your website designed specifically for this purpose. You can use a combination of written narrative, video, visuals, because it's all on a completely blank canvas, right? You can control your website. If social media shut down today, your website would be the primary place that consumers would go to find out more information about you. But great marketing is about meeting your customers wherever they are, even before you get them to buy. So storytelling is such a powerful tool that it allows you to build brand affinity, which is trust, at some of the earliest touch points because of things such as social media and ads. Now we're going to tell the brand story. So this is where it becomes interactive. If you have any questions, if you want to unmute and ask a question while we're walking through kind of your brand story, we can start here. The next slide will feature 6 points. We're going to walk through some questions. Not all of the questions are on the slides. But this is a great point for you to start thinking about kind of what is the foundation of your brand story. You'll get these questions in an email that will be sent out Friday morning. It will also include a worksheet that you can work through. But if you want to go ahead and start working now, once you get the worksheet, you already have an idea of kind of where you're headed and where you want to go. So what does your brand believe and why does your brand exist? From there, you can define the core desire and the emotional offering that fulfills your audience's desires. So it's not about getting them to buy, it's about getting them to believe. That's from Lewis Richardson. He is a storytelling professional in the marketing world who is a genius, okay? So number one, you wanna start with the basics. What is your purpose? What does your brand believe? So what is your conviction and purpose? What does your brand believe? Why does your brand exist? And then from there, you can define your audience's core desire and the emotional offering that fulfills that desire. From there, you can start to dive into the finer details like your voice, your tone, and your design. So start with the basics. Your basics are your what and your why. Okay. So what is your purpose and what do you believe in? Okay. Number 2, ask questions. Why does your business exist? Why did you start your business? What is your personal history? Include what's relevant to your journey or the inception of your brand. Who are your main characters? You, your target audience, mentors, partners. What is the setting, if that is relevant? Is the place important to your brand? And if it is, then why? That setting, defining your setting and really putting that in your brand story is important for brands that focus more so on a local community, local feel, or if they were inspired to travel, or if they were inspired by something that happened at a particular location. Where's the tension and what action followed from that? What problem are you trying to solve? What's your mission? What do you aim to accomplish through this brand? Who's your audience or ideal customer? You want to be very specific. What do they currently believe? What do you want them to believe after engaging with your brand? How would you like others to describe your brand to a friend? And what do you stand for? What are your personal values? How will those be reflected in your brand? Those last 3 questions, if it's you, meaning that's your personal brand that you're building a brand story for, you can use you. If it is a company or a business, you want to say, what do we stand for? What are our company values? And how will those be reflected in our brand? Number 3, you want to listen to your customer. Your story should be authentic and relevant. And though your brand story should be personal, it shouldn't necessarily be created in a vacuum. It shouldn't just be driven by you. You want to make sure that you're getting out and you're talking to your community to understand the collective experience of the people that you hope to speak to. Number 4, write a story, not just a list of facts. So you want to use a basic story structure that connects the answers of your questions in a way that is conversational, engaging, and well-paced. Remember to read it out loud. Does it sound like you? Is it in your tone, in your voice? And you want to infuse the things that you stand for. If you're passionate about your story, it will be reflected in your writing. Number 5. And the moral of the story is, so all good stories end with a moral or a lesson, right? For brand stories, you want to refer to this kind of as a call to action, and your story should always have a takeaway for the consumer that is actionable. Your story goal isn't always to compel someone to buy, but in that case, what other action do you want the reader to take? Should they follow you on social media? Should they complete a survey? Should they donate to support a cause? And then how will you keep the customer engaged and nurture them further into your story through the moral? Maybe it's simply them feeling a particular way or feeling a certain emotion about your brand. And then you want to seek feedback. Okay, it's not all set in stone. Like I said, the journey of perfection, instead of it being done, finished, this is final, no edits, you want to enter into the journey of done, right? Not meaning that it can't be revamped, understanding that you can come back and change something, because as time changes, as things evolve, so does your brand, so does your business. And because of that, you're able to go back, and you always want to make sure to keep in touch and remain very, very up to date on current trends in your demographic. If they've changed, what are they now feeling? If you've fulfilled that pain point, do they have another one that corresponds with the same thing? And then from there, can something else be birthed? Once your story is out in the world, it doesn't mean that it's set in stone. You want to seek feedback from your customer constantly, and that can be through polls on social media. You can run surveys. You can do feedback on your website. You can offer feedback or ask for feedback in email marketing. You want to pay attention, but you also want to be able to, not all feedback is feedback that you need to implement. So ask the questions of your audience directly, but you also want to know when to act on it and when to let it lie. Not every customer is your best customer, nor are they a brand advocate. So you'll need to know when to stick to your values and when to kind of implement the changes that they have suggested. This is an example of a brand story from SoulCycle. So SoulCycle is a gym. And what they're trying to do through this story is convey an experience with each workout that transcends any other gym, any other cycle place. So it says, at SoulCycle, we aspire to inspire. We inhale intention and exhale expectation. We commit to our climbs and find freedom in our sprints. We are a fitness community raising the roof at our own cardio party. The rhythm pushes us harder than we've ever thought possible. Our own strength surprises us every time. Addicted, obsessed, unnaturally attached to our bikes. High on sweat and the hum of the wheel. Core engaged, we reshape our entire bodies one ride at a time. Change your body, take your journey, find your soul. Okay. It has that we laugh, cry, grow, whatever it is, whatever pain it is, we do it together because we're a community. There's a promise of motivation and a sense of belonging in their story. And the high-powered workout, which is kind of what they're known for, their high-powered 45-minute classes is what they're known for. But that feel is shown and is very, very evident in their brand story. Your brand story might not change the world, but it will let your target market and audience understand why your brand is worth their time and their money. Okay? And that is it. Stop sharing the screen and go back and ask questions. You will get the PowerPoint. We'll get the PowerPoint, the list of the questions that I posed. You will get those as well. And then Gable had company brand versus product brand. I don't know why I keep saying brand, how to distinguish. So it's all about the overall purpose of each, right? And that's kind of what we've been hinting at the whole time. So your product purpose, while it may serve your purpose as a company, it can also be very different. So as a company and as that particular brand, look at Johnson & Johnson, right? So all of Johnson & Johnson's products have, all the product lines have the particular purpose. You have Johnson & Johnson Baby, you have Band-Aid, you have lotions. There are so many different things. You have cleaning products. There's so many different product lines that serve a particular product that all still push towards their overall purpose, mission, brand of health and household, right? So it's all about understanding what, as a company, what is your general overall umbrella focus, umbrella purpose? And then as a product service, who is the particular audience for this product? And how can you convey messaging to them? What is it that they're looking for in a brand that you would need to implement into that product brand to get them to buy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Gable, you went on mute?
I'm off of you now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it makes sense. One of the reasons why I asked that question, right? You mentioned Johnson & Johnson, right? So Johnson & Johnson has a bunch of different products, but each one of their products is still distinguished from the company. You see what I mean? So the No Tears, the Panthers, and what have you. For a person that's just starting out, companies that are just starting off, and they only have one product, right? And you're trying to develop your company as the brand. Later on, you're going to have more products. And the reason I asked this question is because yesterday, the young lady making my brochure for me, she said, well, Gable, what about the logo for the product itself, or how are you branding the product versus the company? So that's kind of difficult for me. So that's why I asked the question.
So the only thing when it comes down to even logo design, and as a small business, so Johnson & Johnson, regardless of the products, the numerous product lines that they have, right? It's still a consistent theme. It's still a consistent feel, and it's still a consistent message at the base. And so even as a small business just starting out, you can still employ those same concepts, those same tactics, but making sure that, because even as an umbrella company, essentially any product under your company is to serve your base purpose, mission, vision. So making sure that your product and its brand still consistently, cohesively, and clearly embraces, embodies the mission and vision of the organization, you can do that. There are several small, if you look at, Honey Pot, right? So while there's several different, while they all serve the same thing, there are several different types of feminine wash, right? But each feminine wash is for a particular woman looking for that particular need. But everything about the business, even down to what's on the back of the packaging, regardless of the type that it is consistent and clear. So you want to make sure that whoever is designing your brochure, whoever is working within your brand, you want to make sure that they understand the importance of consistency and cohesiveness. And that's something that you need to also understand as the business owner is, okay, even though this product is coming out in 2021 and we might have another one coming out in 2024, how can they consistently, cohesively, and clearly show that they still are a part of our company? And that's through, whether it's using the same typography, whether it is staying in the same product industry and product category, whatever that is, you have to work to understand that on your own.
That's real.
Okie dokie. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, feel free to just unmute yourself, raise your hand. And folks are asking if they could get the PowerPoint as well in the chat.
Yes, so they'll get the PowerPoint and they'll get those list of questions.
Awesome, thank you so much.
No problem. I don't know if this means that I did a good job or if I just left a lot to be unanswered. Yes, Gable.
Gable will keep us busy.
No, seriously, because, this is something, I'll give you an example, right? So when I first started, I didn't understand I understood brands, I understood the consistency of things, right? And I hired someone to do this for me. But if you go and you look at me, you look at me and you look at my company, right? My company is Tech Touch, TEQTOUCH, right? But when they went and did everything, I had already done some things. you touch. So on Twitter, I'm Tech Touch. On LinkedIn, it's me, Gable Eton. So there's no consistency across there, and that needs to be fixed. And that's why I was asking the question about the branding of the company versus the product. And I'll leave off here. I was listening to I was reading someone on LinkedIn yesterday, and she got talking about, you have to remember that the CEO is the brand also. And I take umbrage to that. The CEO is not the brand, because the CEO can change a company. He can go to another company, so he's not the brand. And I don't understand why they're trying to push that now, that the CEO is a brand versus the company. That's a separate entity. You represent the brand, but you're not the brand. Even though your messaging and everything that you put out should be consistent, and you should be promoting the brand as long as you're the CEO of that company. But you see where I'm at. I've got across the different platforms, it's different. It's not Tech Touch across all of the platforms. And that's something that has to be addressed and be fixed.
And it doesn't have to be, so social media doesn't even have to be just the name of your company. It can be like, if you say it's Take You Touch, then it needs to be Take You Touch as far as the handle on all social media platforms, so that people can easily find you. So like, I'm Contrecia T on all platforms. And even on LinkedIn has business pages that a lot of small and medium-sized businesses do not utilize. It allows people, like, you have people who are your connections on LinkedIn. They can also follow your business page and stay up to date. You can post events, you can post regular posts on there. You can post jobs on there, job openings and things like that. And so make sure that you're utilizing that feature as well, but stay consistent with your handles. Stay consistent with your profile image, so that people don't have to second guess if that is you that they are interacting with that time. I saw, will you offer one-on-one sessions? I do. I offer them as an advisor at the EC, if you are a member of the EC. And I also offer them within my own company through Contrecia T and neuIMC.
Jahara, you can shoot me an email and I can get you connected on I think you're on the platform. You should be.
Yeah.
And then Trista asked, I'll ask it so you're not having to talk to yourself.
Okay.
Any advice on rebranding or sharing a different chapter of your story when you already have a dedicated following?
So it's just all about, because if you have a dedicated following, then that means that they are loyal to your brand. They're loyal to your growth, to your highs, to your lows, to your triumphs, to your struggles. So rebranding doesn't mean that you have to pivot and penetrate a new market, or even change your brand story, right? When you're rebranding, it could just be if it's a different product that you're offering, or if it's just the changing of your logo. If there is a different chapter of your story that you are looking to share, it's just about that transparency. I'm very familiar with your brands, Trista, and you always have a level of transparency and honesty that comes alongside with your brand that your consumers, that your followers automatically appreciate. And so it's just about, it's that authenticity that you really want to capitalize on and leverage that you already have, and just let people know, hey guys, this is what's new, this is what's coming, this is what we're doing, this is why we're changing. So you can craft a brand story around the change. What was the purpose of the change? What pushed you to do it? What did you see? What void did you see out there that you knew that your brand could definitely fix and handle? And I feel like it would really, really be conveyed and accepted through who you are. And that's the same for any brand, right? It's just about being as transparent in the process as possible. Don't make it seem as if you have it all together, or if everything is perfect, because that can also be very intimidating for your consumer. So if there is some things that you want to change, you see brands say it all the time, new look, new feel. It's just about having that offering and just letting your consumer know what's happened instead of just doing it. So don't just change without an explanation, because, especially a lot of people change their logo, which is their icon. And for a consumer who has experienced the brand, it can be very confusing. Like, okay, so what does this mean? Who is this person? Who is this brand? But if, like share the new icon, share the new logo, share the new colorway, share the new aesthetic, which is a new buzzword in the industry. And then in the caption, give some information and some insight. And then there's one more.
Yeah, she said, Dr. T, do you have any suggestions for branding when you are opening a new company? They have a business now and their new company is totally different and they don't want to cause confusion.
Okay, so are they
Dr.
under
T, I'm sorry, I'm Shatiri. Can I provide some clarification on that?
Sure, please do.
Well, questions. Okay, go ahead.
So the point I'm making is that, like, I've started another business, but it's totally different. And a lot of times when I'm on social media, I see sometimes where people are doing one thing and then 6 months later doing something else. And I think that, I mean, just from my perspective, that can lend itself to some trust issues. So it's very important for me because like I'm very transparent with my current brand and everything, and I'm doing something different, but I don't want to cause confusion or the idea that, oh, she's doing something else now. And that I don't want that to lead to any issues or negative perceptions per se.
Right. So are the two companies tied together in any way?
They are not. They're totally different.
So do they service the same people?
They possibly can, because I am a financial coach, and the new company will be in real estate. So there can be some overlap there in terms of like the people that I'm serving. So that's what, if they were like totally they're different, but there can be some overlap, and that's my concern.
So and not so much that needs to be a concern, as much as that is a learning opportunity that allows you, because as the financial company, you already have an understanding of the demographic that you serve. And if there is an overlapping demographic, then you already have the research that you need. When you are branding, it's all about, one of the first things in branding, because it's not only encompassing kind of who you are, what you do, what's your mission, what's your vision, but you also want to make sure that you are understanding who your demographic is. A lot of people brand their business based on what they like instead of what their customer may find appealing. And so that's when you look at most brands who are not successful at reaching or interacting or engaging with their demographic, a lot of the times it's because the demographic can't see themselves in the brand. They can't see themselves in the messaging. They can't see themselves in the content. They don't understand what you're doing. And then on top of that, there's no consistency in regards to posting times, how frequent or frequency of posts, what the posts look like, what they can expect, or anything like that. So one of the biggest suggestions that I have is understanding kind of what is the purpose of the business and what is the pain point that you're hoping to solve, but then also how can the consumer really see themselves in your offering and in what you're doing, and make sure that your branding captures both of those. Branding is not just about what you feel. It's not your favorite colors, right? If you look at social media, right, even colors, down to the colors, a lot of times people don't understand there's like a color science that goes into branding. If you look at most social media apps, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them are blue, because blue is happy, blue is communication, blue is trust, right? And so you want to make sure that you really, really take the time, not saying that you have to have it perfect, because there's a such thing as rebranding for a reason. It doesn't have to be perfect when you first do it. Of course, done is always better than perfect. But you really want to take the time to make sure that you understand what it is that you're looking for this brand to do and to achieve, so that you can craft something, whether it's down to the logo and the icon that you have for your logo, to the typography, to what social media platform you're on, to the strategy that you use, to the feeling, to the tone of your messaging, to the words that you use. All of that is your branding. So I would just take the time to really do your research on how the industries are different, but also do your research on how the industries overlap so that one could supplement another, and then that one could supplement the original. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Okay.
also, I didn't hear the part where you said someone asked if you offer one-on-one coaching.
I do.
Okay.
I do. And then Haley said, I call it Zap.
Zap is good.
Zap, she says that if you connect with her, then she can connect you with me. If you are a member at the EC, we can talk. If you're not a member at the EC, then I will leave my email addresses in the chat now.
I'm going to put my email too, but definitely, I think most folks on here are involved with us.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried.
And then the last question is, which social media company is the best to start with? That all depends on who your audience is and what kind of information you're looking to convey. I would just need to know if you can email me, Catherine, if you can email me your demographic, then we can go back and forth in an email about which social media platform, because there's so many platforms now, and they all serve a different person or a different purpose, with different content, with different formats. So I just need to know more about that. So if you email me, my email is in the chat, then we can definitely figure that out for you, Catherine. Bahar, if you go, I have a profile on the ECR, advisors.ec.co, I believe it is. I have a profile there. You can, it's Dr. Contrecia Tharpe. Just schedule a one-on-one there. We do up to an hour. And then you leave from my advising session with some homework. And then I always encourage people to rebook in about 4 weeks so that we can go back and make sure that they are getting the information that they need.
Being a member of Renew Nashville is being a member of the EC, by the way. Just got a private chat. Well, thank you so much to Dr. T. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. Really appreciate it. I will send out these slides. And if you need to book a meeting, just shoot me a message. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Bye.